Tony Abbott, welcome to News Breakfast.
Thanks, Lyndall.
It's a fact, isn't it, that you, like the government, are going to the election promising to cut payments to low-income earners with fewer public service jobs. You're just pledging to cut more.
Well, Lyndall, I'm trying to do two things, as I hope I was clear last night. I want to take the pressure off households by removing the carbon tax without reducing anyone's personal tax or without reducing anyone's pension. So what was compensation under this government will be real under the coalition, real tax cuts and real benefit increases.
But some supplements, some payments that were not fortnightly to low-income earners are gone.
Yeah, I accept that. But the carbon tax is gone, and they were very specific compensation payments to particular groups. So without the carbon tax, I am very confident that people are going to be significantly better off.
You said last night that electricity prices would go down. Given carbon pricing isn't the only element of electricity price rises, are you promising they would go down or just not rise by as much?
Well, the government says that the carbon tax is 10% of the power price and 9% of the gas price. Now, I accept, Lyndall, that there are other elements in pricing, but you'd have to have a very big increase in some other area to make up for the removal of 10% of the cost.
So they will go down?
Well, I am confident that they will go down, and obviously the ACCC will be out there policing the removal of the carbon tax.
Is that one of these rolled gold ironclad promises?
Well, can I say that the power price will go down by 10% on the 1st of January 2014? I can't say that, but I can say that the carbon tax currently adds 10% to the price of power, and the carbon tax will be gone under the coalition.
Is the baby bonus gone in its current form?
Well, obviously the government has abolished the baby bonus, and I don't like it. The baby bonus was a policy that I was very committed to as part of the Howard government. It was, if you like, one of the signature policies of the Howard government. This government, having promised not to touch the baby bonus, has constantly tinkered with the baby bonus. Now, in breach of those commitments, it's finally abolished it altogether. And the point I made last night was there's lots in this budget that we find objectionable. Given the budget emergency that this government has created, we can't commit to oppose it, we can't commit to rescind it, and we might even, as short-term emergency measures to repair the budget, have to implement them.
You promised to resist new spending commitments that aren't fully funded, saying nearly always offsetting with expenditure reductions. Why nearly always? Because the other option for paying for things is tax rises, isn't it?
And obviously, Lyndall, the paid parental leave, which will be a signature policy of any incoming coalition government, is paid for by a levy. Now, we want to make headroom for that levy by having a commensurate company tax cut. That's what we want to do. But
Are you leaving
obviously,
open the option of other tax rises, should you feel they're necessary?
Well, we are against tax increases. Tax cuts are in our DNA. Lower, simpler, fairer taxes is what the coalition is all about. But obviously, Lyndall, paid parental leave is being paid for by a levy, and I didn't want to put myself in a position where I was saying we would always pay for things with expenditure reductions when plainly paid parental leave is funded by a levy.
The wording you and your Shadow Treasurer, Joe Hockey, have been using about getting back to surplus has been more cautious of late, given the likely starting point deficit is a deficit next financial year of $18 billion, then $10 billion the year after that. Are you accepting you might not get to surplus in the first term of government, or you might have to delay, scrap some of your own promises to get there?
Lyndall, the commitments we make, we will keep. But we aren't going to be making a whole range of big promises. The next election, as far as the coalition is concerned, will not be an auction. It won't be an auction, but we will mean what we say, and we will implement the commitments we make. That's what we will do to keep faith with the Australian people.
You're also going to have a commission of audit. That raises the possibility it will recommend other spending cuts, like your white papers on tax reform and COAG, like your IR policy. Will you take any measures recommended by the Commission of Audit to another election before they're implemented?
Well, obviously, Lyndall, we will not implement measures recommended by the Commission of Audit if we think they're inconsistent with our mandate, if we think that they would break faith with the Australian public. Now,
but you will decide what's within your mandate and the circumstances in which it's in.
Lyndall, look, essentially yes, but the point I make is that this government has got itself into diabolical trouble with the public by constantly making commitments and then breaking them. We're not going to do that. And if there are recommendations from the Commission of Audit that are inconsistent with the commitments that we've made to the public pre-election, well, obviously we won't do them.
As I mentioned, you're having a white paper on tax reform. Will you do as the government didn't and let it consider the GST?
Well, we have no plans to change the GST. Any change to the GST would have to be supported by every state and territory because it is a state and territory tax, and we won't be doing anything in the tax area other than abolishing the carbon tax, abolishing the mining tax, and if we can, a modest company tax cut. We won't be doing anything else in the tax area without taking it to a subsequent election for a mandate.
Given it is a significant tax, can you look at tax reform in a meaningful way without considering it?
Well, look, we are going to have a thorough public consultation, a very thorough public consultation. We will invite contributions from all interested parties, from all expert groups. We will do the job that the Henry Review tried to do, and this government didn't allow it.
Didn't allow it to consider the GST. So can I just get an answer? Is it open to the tax reform white paper to consider the GST, even if you're not planning any changes?
Well, the point I make, Lyndall, is that it's not up to us, the Commonwealth, to change the GST. We have no plans to do so, but it's not up to us anyway because it's a state and territory tax. It is a state and territory tax. Now, anything arising out of the white paper that we thought should be done, we'd seek a mandate for it.
A quick question on what are called the Gonski education funding reforms. Would you not proceed with them in government?
Well, the thing about those changes, the thing about what this government is doing, it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. And there's actually going to be a net reduction in school funding over the forward estimates period. So this idea that Gonski came out with, that you should have $6.5 billion a year in extra spending so that no schools would be worse off, it just isn't going to happen. And the safest thing to do for schools is to continue the existing system, fine-tune it, and then sit down with the states, have the kind of discussion that this government is incapable of, and work out where we can make meaningful change. But in the end, Lyndall, what schools need is better teachers, better teaching, more parental involvement, more principal autonomy, higher academic standards. These are the things that schools really need, as well as more funding.
If you win government, the Gonski proposals are gone?
Look, there was much that was good and useful in Gonski, but in the end, it's got to be affordable, and there's got to be a clear pathway to better schools. And what we've seen time and time again over the last 5 years in particular is vast increases in funding, such as the failed education revolution, the overpriced school halls program, that aren't accompanied by any improvements in actual school outcomes.
You're also going to have a white paper on COAG. Are you going to wind back the centralisation of power at the Commonwealth that has been occurring since the Whitlam days and give the states back full responsibility for health, education and the environment?
we need to have a sensible discussion about what is often a pretty dysfunctional federation. Now, Kevin Rudd and Julia Gillard said they were going to end the blame game. If anything, the blame game has gone from bad to worse under this government. So we do need to have a sensible discussion and ask ourselves which level of government should do what, because there is an enormous amount of waste, duplication, overlap and buck passing, and it frustrates.
Would it make sense for states to have sole responsibility for hospitals, education, environment?
Well, the fact that you've got all of the overlap and duplication at the moment, a dog's breakfast of divided responsibilities, I think I called it in a book called Battle Lines that people might wish to read still. It frustrates the hell out of people, Lyndall. It frustrates the hell out of the premiers. When I was a minister in the Commonwealth government, it frustrated the hell out of me. Let's see if we can do better in the future than we have in the recent past. But again, Lyndall, we wouldn't do anything without seeking a mandate for it.
One final question, something which I think came out of another book. Peter Costello says you once asked for him to pay for phone and electricity wires to be put underground in your electorate to improve the amenity of the neighbourhood. Now you're planning under your NBN to put 60,000 fibre to the node boxes around suburban streets. Mm-hmm. Are you happy with the amenity of that?
Well, we'll give Australia a much better broadband system for $60 billion less than Labor.
But it will involve 60,000 node boxes in suburban streets.
But it'll be 5 times current speeds for $60 billion less than Labor. Now, sure, it will involve fibre to distribution points, but the disruption involved in that is vastly less than digging up the streets to send fibre to more than 12 million premises.
Tony Abbott, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Lyndall.